All right, welcome everyone. Welcome. Give it a moment or two here. Welcome. We're live. Hey, Nancy. Great to have you here. Welcome everybody. We'll give it a minute or so here while we're waiting for more folks to join us before we get started officially. This is AAM's YouTube channel, and we have a great program lined up for you tonight. So thank you all so much for being with us, for joining us. Feel free, if you are with us, to say hello in the chat and where you are in the world. And if you're an activist, how long you've been an activist. If you're a vegan, how long you've been a vegan and such. Maybe what you're hoping to get out of tonight's program, which is all about self-care for activists. So we're going to dive into that momentarily. Just going to give it another few seconds or so before we officially kick off. Yes, yes, yes. Welcome, welcome to everyone. We love to have you. Another moment or two. Here we are. All right, let's get started. Let us get started. 7 o'clock. So more folks will be joining us, I'm sure. So welcome. Greetings, animal allies. Welcome, Vancouver, Canada. Had to go over and welcome you. Yeah. Welcome, animal allies. Welcome to another AAM live stream workshop. Welcome, Diana from Freehold. Thank you all for being here. Thanks for being excited to be here from where you are. Feel free to continue to check in with us. Love to see that. Yeah, from the little apple with the big apple complex, New York City. Yeah. Yeah. Nancy, great. Fantastic. Okay. So greetings, greetings, greetings. This is another AAM live stream workshop designed to help you become a more knowledgeable, effective, and outspoken advocate for animal liberation. Tonight, I'm with AAM mentor Benjamin Konigsberg to learn budget-friendly self-care, including wellness tips for food prep, exercise, and other healthy habits, so that we can all continue to be a strong presence, a strong and dynamic presence for the animals. My name is Michelle Granberg. I'm your moderator. I'm a mentor and team member with Animal Activism Mentorship. AAM is a multinational program supporting seasoned as well as new fledgling activists. Our mission is to empower activists to reach their full potential and equip them with the tools, community, and resources they need to boldly participate in our global animal liberation movement. Founded in 2020, AAM offers a free 3-month mentorship program, which pairs experienced activists with aspiring activists. Additionally, we offer free educational online programs like this one. We have a podcast called the Animal Liberation Hour, and we host large-scale in-person activism events around the country, and I have a couple of those announcements. Stay to the end. If you're interested in applying to become a mentor or mentee, or want to get involved or to donate, visit our website, animalactivismmentorship.com. All right, so that being said, we will be taking questions after the presentation. Feel free to comment throughout, but please, as always, keep your comments kind and respectful and generally on topic. So now I'm pleased to introduce AAM mentor, YouTuber, and activist Benjamin Konigsberg. Go ahead and take it away.
Nice. Thank you, Michelle. And thank you, AAM, and appreciative for everyone here viewing tonight or in the future. So this is budget-friendly self-care for animal rights activists. Let me give you a quick intro and some context into who I am. So I'm Benjamin, currently residing in New York City. I've been vegan for over 9 years, and I've been active for about 6 of those years. I have to give a huge, huge shout out to Vegan Evan and Vegan Shannon. They are been instrumental in getting me active. It was some years ago, seeing their work on social media, and I was like, I have to do that. I became an AAM mentee, and I got to give a shout out to my mentor, Red Pill Pete, and we're going to link his YouTube channel down below. But he was hugely influential on me. I became a mentor, and I just have nothing but amazing things to say about AAM. Professionally, I've been a holistic healthcare practitioner. So I have a background in specifically massage therapy and working everywhere from chiropractic clinics to spas to independently. I love focusing on deep tissue and trigger point release therapy. And then I'm just genuinely passionate about health and wellness. And it's a lot of it through my own experience trying to mitigate. I personally suffered for decades with food addiction and binge and overeating. So kind of through my own trials and tribulations, learning a lot about health and myself and wellness. So just a couple concise learning objectives here for this presentation. Just number one, the idea that we can make small changes that can lead to profound differences and improvements in our health later on. And the idea is that any gains that we make in our health or otherwise can be directly donated, directly contributed to amplify our animal liberation activism. And then I just want to leave you with a few personal tips for making healthy choices a little bit easier, specifically around wholesome meal and food preparation, getting your regular exercise in, and then just feelings of connectedness through some basic empathy practices. So health is so important, and especially for activists. All right, and we face additional challenges as vegans. And no, of course, I'm not talking about protein or nutrient deficiencies. I'm talking about living in a carnivore world and the additional compounded stressors and obstacles to health that we face, the social isolation, the ridicule. It's been well documented that there's a strong bias and judgments against vegans. Then of activists, we have repeated exposure to trauma, risks to our personal safety, potential legal risks, and all the ensuing, stress that's going to come from that. And again, just the mental, emotional stress of dealing with people's cognitive dissonance in such a cruel world. All right. And then, of course, so few of us are vegans. And then, of course, so few vegans are activists. So we're a rare group of individuals, and just our mere existence is vital for the animals. So the animals need us to be here and be functioning at its best for as long as we possibly can. And then, of course, health is foundational for everything. I mean, if we're sick or we're uncomfortable, it's hard to get along with just your activities of daily life, let alone activism. And then because as activists, we're mission-driven people. So we are driven by a purpose and a goal for total animal liberation. And so the more that we have, the more that we can give to our purpose and our cause to liberate animals. But I'm sure many of us have experienced that change can be difficult because we're having to relinquish and disrupt current behavioral patterns, current habits, while simultaneously fostering new ones. All right, that's unfamiliar territory. It's uncomfortable. We have social pressure, sometimes constraints within our family or pressures within our family. But here are some tips that I can offer to overcome change resistance. Well, the idea, again, just to reiterate, that we're accountable to animals. So like finding our why, what's our reason, what's our motivation to improve ourselves or to change. And at least initially it can be so we can be better activists and we can expedite this whole thing for animal rights and liberation. All right. And then the idea is just the small daily changes lead to big impact. So a lot of times when we set ourselves up with lofty goals and lofty aspirations, we get discouraged because it's often not sustainable. But if we start small, we can get those little wins and we can build upon that. We have to make change as convenient as possible. I think convenience is king, especially at, for example, the end of a day of activism. We're tired, we're hangry, we're frustrated. The healthy choice has to also be convenient. All right. And it has to be sustainable, just like our activism. We're in this for the long run. So this is a lifetime commitment. And the idea is that once new behaviors become a part of our identity, it's a lot easier just to follow through. For example, maybe we didn't always identify as activists. We were just vegans who attended our first demos or protests, but then we became activists, and now actions is what we do. Speaking up for animals is just what we do because we see it part of who we are. Here's a little meme that I had seen years ago, but I thought it was classic. Just again, the change and behavioral change is challenging. So health is a myriad of things. I think we can all agree that it is a lot of factors that go into, health and wellness, financial health, spiritual health, psychological, emotional, physical. But again, we just wanted to focus on just a couple aspects of meal preparation, regular movement or exercise, and then just some basic feelings of connectedness. So here's one little infographic that I like. The idea that if you're on an airplane on a tarmac in LA and the nose of the plane is slightly shifted 3.5 degrees in one direction or another, you would not notice that. But by the time you get to the East Coast, that's the difference between being in either New York City or DC. So we might not be able to change our destination overnight, but we can change our direction. And again, we're thinking long term. So these regular little incremental behavioral changes or actions add up, a compound effect. So making healthy meal prep a little bit easier. Again, convenience is king. Health benefits of meal preparedness. It's a lot easier to make healthier food choices. You're significantly more likely to eat more nutrient dense food when you think ahead of time, when you shop ahead of time, when you prepare your meal ahead of time. And inversely, when you eat out, the takeout food, the convenient food, generally is more processed, less nutrient dense. So you're going to eat healthier just by eating at home. You save time, save money, and save stress, especially if you do things, like buy in bulk, for example. I don't know if you ever heard of the concept of decision fatigue, but the idea that willpower and that it takes a certain amount of mental faculties to make healthy, rational decisions throughout the day. So we start out, our battery is full, but the more decisions we have to make throughout the day, our ability to make the rational, healthy choice declines. So when we're prepared with our food, then we can just eliminate that whole thought process and decision making related to food and what we're going to eat and how we're going to nourish ourselves, because we've already taken care of that. But again, another, I thought, an appropriate meme. But I think we all can agree, especially at this point, that just because there's so much vegan junk food out there, and then we've come to learn that processed food can still be detrimental to our health. That just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's healthy. And again, this the convenience food. So we're gonna just try and make the healthier option a little bit more convenient. Let's look at the savings of meal prep. For example, again, this is just kind of a generalization, but if you were to just replace one of the meals that you currently are buying out with a home cooked meal, that's an approximate $50 a month saving. That's the equivalent of over 700, the little vegan outreach pamphlets, over 700 of those for $50 a month. If you were to replace every 5 or 7 days a week with your lunch with a home cooked, home prepared meal versus eating out, 200 a month, again, approximate, but that's enough to sponsor 16 chickens for 1 month of care at Woodstock Farm Sanctuary. So again, leverage your desire to help animals to help overcome the initial difficulties of changing your routine. For example, I live in New York, so sometimes just the subway ride at $2.75 a pop. I mean, wherever you are, a lot of times activists are having to drive to demos, parking, tolls. These can be cost prohibitive for people. So what is the extra $200 a month going to do for you in terms of just allowing you the ability to do more actions? This is what I love. I call them automated kitchen appliances. This is a game changer for me when it comes to whole food meal prep. For example, the Instant Pot, the rice cooker, the electric steamer, and now the ever popular air fryer. Okay, I didn't even know the electric steamer was a thing until a few years ago. But I love these, what I call automated kitchen appliances, because I find them significantly easier to prepare foods without added oils. For example, just steaming or baking or roasting. Now, of course, you can always, use some parchment paper or water or something in the oven, but because these have automatic shutoffs, I can cook unsupervised. I never have to worry about leaving the stove on. And then I find them to be significantly faster, especially the Instant Pot, because it's a pressure cooker. And it's a lot easier to multitask. That's what I call set it and forget it. You can put, steam a yam, steam a squash, come back, do the laundry, do the dishes, take a shower, come back and have a hot, wholesome plate of plant food right there for you. So just additionally, keep it simple. So if you have a couple staples, like some legumes and some grains or some of your favorite cruciferous vegetables, or, your favorite root vegetable, just double down on what you already like. And for variety, you can add, you can swap different types of legumes, different types of grains, different types of veggies, sauces for variety. But I would say double down on what you already like and keep it simple. Frozen pre-cut vegetables are great for convenience. So if that's the difference for you between eating more produce and not, do it. I highly recommend invest in good storage containers. Now, it's going to pay a little bit on the front end with the leak proof, especially if you get glass, but the confidence that you will gain to be able to take your food and throw it in your bag and not worry about spills or leakage is worth it. And again, this is investing in yourself. And I recommend keeping healthy, wholesome, like meal prep around in different locations. So that way, when you're hangry, when you need a snack, when you're hungry, you already have something nearby. Again, mitigate the chances that you're going to have to go out and buy something packaged, ultra processed. You make the healthy option the convenient option. Here's just some examples. And again, I wasn't getting too into like specific food recommendations, but just a couple examples. Legumes in the Instant Pot, yam or sweet potato. I cook oatmeal in a rice cooker in addition to rice, quinoa. Electric steamer, I've thrown a whole pumpkin in there. You can set it for the time and the time and the intensity, so you can just throw some kale in there, frozen broccoli out the thing. I just put a whole potato or yam in there. In the air fryer, just some tofu chunks, some polenta right out of the package for polenta fries. These are just some examples. I feel like it doesn't really get much easier than some of these. All right, number 2, making it easier to get your regular exercise in. I just saw one statistic that, a small portion of adults are actually even getting the recommended amount of exercise. So it's obviously challenging for a lot of us to do this. But look a couple health benefits. And again, you can research, there's a plethora of health benefits of getting regular movement or incorporating regular exercise, but just a few is you reduce your risk of all-cause mortality and disease, a boosted energy level, improved confidence and mood, increase your strength, both muscle strength, bone density, and better sleep. And as we all know, sleep is critical for all functions. Personally, I love morning exercise because I find when you get your exercise done in the morning, you're less likely to have schedule conflicts or distractions. Sometimes I get pulled away, people need you, we have other responsibilities, but I feel it's less so first thing in the morning. Then I find if I sometimes kind of tackle one of my tasks, there's a lot of aversion sometimes to a resistance to getting our heart rate up, to breaking a sweat. to exercising, but when we just get it done early, we have that confidence and the momentum can carry us through a more productive day, tackling our other tasks. And then we get to enjoy more energy and enhanced mood for the entirety of the day. So I like this little infographic here. If we rely on motivation alone as a prerequisite for taking an action, it's likely not going to be sustainable, because just in my personal experience and my understanding of the nature of motivation is to ebb and flow. Whereas consistent actions that become habits over time will stay consistent regardless of motivation. So let's look, and again, these are just some examples I'm putting out there, but regular physical exercise, I mean, and there's a lot of this kind of, meta research, but if you incorporate regular exercise into your day, into your week, you can mitigate saving up to $2,500 per year in healthcare costs. That is the equivalent of providing care for a cow for an entire year at Peaceful Field Sanctuary, because they're asking $200 a month to cover, food and veterinary costs for a cow at Peaceful Field Sanctuary. So you just think of, now a sanctuary can rescue another cow. You see what I'm saying? That think of the animals, at least initially, as a motivation to improve your health. Walking 30 minutes a day can increase your productivity by 30%. What actions, if you want to drop in the chat below, what actions would you accomplish with an additional 30% productivity? What more would you be doing with an additional 30%? Or what would you be doing better if you were 30% more productive? And regular exercise has been known and studied that it can add years to our lives, an estimated 6 years to our life. Now, just to give some perspective, now animal activism mentorship is a whole group of activists, and certainly a whole group of very, very committed activists committing a lot of time. But AAM is only it recently had their 4-year anniversary, right? Everyone was 4 years old. And look at all the convergences, all the resources, all the mentoring in 4 years. So what could we do in 6? Here's my tips for morning exercise routine. The idea that it's a mindset shift. So instead of trying to squeeze the most out of the day by staying up a little bit later, you're going to try and squeeze the most out of the next day by going to bed a little bit earlier, because they say a morning practice starts the night before. So you could try just going to bed a little bit earlier, like 15 minutes at a time. It will be almost unnoticeable. And then either or wake up a little bit earlier. Again, if you do it in increments, it will be less uncomfortable, just a little bit at a time. And then get your exercise done right away. First thing. I personally, one of my favorite things to do is walking. I love to walk. And I love to walk and consume media related to becoming a better activist or just personal development content. So now I purchased a consumer grade used treadmill on Craigslist for $150. So that's still an investment, but I've looked at Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, and I've seen them as low as 50 and in the 150 range. So that might be an option where you can just catch up on all your AAM workshops, or if at the gym or going for a walk, listening to the Animal Liberation Hour, which is the podcast presented by Animal Activism Mentorship. So for me, that's a great way to kind of marry my productivity. All right. And my last little tip here, feeling connected. So the benefits of feeling connected: mitigate symptoms of PTSD, improve overall mental health, reduce stress and anxiety, and boost the immune system, and again, increase the longevity. Empathy leads to connection. I personally feel that when people feel they're being listened to or being heard, they're more likely to feel connected. At least that's been true for me. And I believe that's true for many people. All right, well, what is empathy? Just a couple examples here. Empathy is the ability to understand what someone else is feeling and trying to understand from their perspective, kind of feel where they're coming from. And personally, when I feel, or when you feel, maybe you feel, but I certainly feel when someone is genuinely interested in understanding where my experience without having an agenda or judgment on me, or asking kind of pointed questions that I know is coming off with their own agenda. They're trying to prove something, but when they're just genuinely there and curious, I feel connected in empathy. And I feel that oftentimes we can come to our own resolutions and innate wisdom simply by being heard. All right, but what's not empathy? Now, I know so many well-intentioned people. I mean, I think it's, obviously our whole society is lacking empathy, or we wouldn't even need to be activists. But a lot of well-intentioned people, and when we share something, the response we get is we get the explain, analyze. So they believe that they're going to help us feel better by explaining or analyzing why we feel that way. Or they're going to go Sherlock Holmes on us and try and be detectives as to why we feel that way. The unsolicited advice, they think they can help us feel better by just offering advice about what we should have done, what we could have done, or what we need to do. And then the silver lining, or the look on the bright side response, is when other people want you to move past, or they're not really listening to how we currently feel because they want to focus on something positive. So this is a couple of tips for getting empathy. I like to call these empathy trades. But if you have a friend that you trust, set aside a few minutes. It can be as little, 5, 6, 10 minutes. Put down the phone for a little bit and just set aside some time. I like to use a timer, because that way each person gets equal allotment of time, and not one person is going to talk too long and throw the balance off, and it kind of can distract from the practice, I feel. So that's why I like to use a timer. And is equal, it's reciprocal. No interrupting, no advice giving, and no need even to respond. Just practice listening, practice listening. That's it. And one thing that's really helped me, like when I'm with friends or family, and not engaged in an empathy trade, but if I'm just perturbed or rattled, or I just need to get something off my chest, I can kind of get some pre-consent and let them know ahead of time, hey, would you mind just listening to what I have to say? And I don't need a response, I don't need any suggestions, I just can, would you mind just listening to me? That would be it. And a lot of people are relieved to know that they don't have to do anything, they just listen, and they don't have to solve your problems, and then it can work out. And sometimes I forget to get that, forget to ask for that, and then I get frustrated when I get like some of those other responses back. So in conclusion, we have to be patient with ourselves. For example, I've been going to the gym now regularly for like over 6 months. It's taken me almost over 6 months to form a new habit. So I really think that's maybe a misnomer, that the 21-day thing. So I would say be patient with how long it might take for a new habit to start, or for you to see changes with your new habits, your new behaviors, and your new actions. And again, start small, because it's the one. Okay, drop in the chat below, what if you were going to just take 1% improvement in your health and self-care, what would that look like? It start with 1%, because you get the compound effect. And if you start small, you're more likely to stick with it. You get the small wins, you build that self-efficacy. Now you're, where you're motivated from your own feelings of victory and accomplishment. And now you get the identity shift, because you've been staying with it, and it's easier to build on that. And by having clear goals, you can know if you hit your target or not. So something measurable. For example, I'm going to walk 30 minutes 3 days a week. And then if you didn't hit it, you didn't hit it, and then you can reassess and recommit. I love accountability buddies or accountability partners. That's just somebody that maybe they have the same goal or a different goal, or maybe they're just your accountability buddy, but somebody who can help hold you accountable to if you did what you said you were going to do or not. And it can be as simple as a text message once a week, once a month. Hey, I did it. I didn't do it. Here's what I thought went wrong, for example. But they can help offer insight into why you've been successful, why you haven't been successful, kind of an unbiased you know, point of view for you taking actions. They can also help remind you why it's important for you to make these changes if you ever lose sight. So I highly recommend the Accountability Buddy. Let me just offer a couple recommendations. And again, I was just kind of keep this high level, but one book that really helped me with my meal prep was The Starch Solution by Dr. John McDougall. And that really kind of helped me with my food prep and understanding some basics of wholesome plant-based meal prep. And the other one that I've gleaned a lot of the content here is coming from this book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. If anybody's here is interested in personal development, habit formation, habit cessation, I highly recommend that book. And now I want to talk about some resources for getting connected and dealing with social isolation and, again, feelings of connectedness. We're all here right now because of animal activism mentorship, but I want to let you know that these are two specific convergences coming up. And I didn't mention in my intro, but I did two in-person convergences. I did a Florida one several years ago, and recently last year I did Portland, Oregon convergence. And I cannot say enough that how much being at the in-person convergence not only inspired me, but I now am connected to a network of activists who I genuinely admire, genuinely respect, people from all over the country and all over the world. I went from literally feeling like a lonely vegan to having an instant community and network and family. So if you're on the fence at all about signing up for a convergence, or if you're on the fence at all about becoming a mentor or getting mentorship, I highly, highly recommend doing so. Okay, here's another platform. It's called Connect for Animals. So the idea is kind of like a LinkedIn, but just for animal activists. And right now, the events calendar is like an aggregation of all different events of animal rights events, both in person and online. So you can go on there. It's totally free. You make a profile, for example, and then I've learned about several events. There's for example, there's a Monday night vegan meditation group that I learned about through this platform. So I highly recommend Connect for Animals. Then I've learned about this resource recently called Impactful Animal Advocacy, and they're a Slack community with like 100 something different channels. So they even have a specific channel. There's over 2,000 activists from around the world, and they even have a channel just for mental health and well-being. So if you just want to get hyper focused on your area of activism, there's a community on this Slack. There's a channel for you on this community. And then I got to give a shout out to Entice the Lyrical Vegan, because I just learned about this resource through one of her YouTube videos recently, in that In Defense of Animals has an animal activist support line. That's a 24-hour support line. I have not yet utilized this resource, but I thought that was awesome. I had to share that. All right, and then finally, please contact me for any questions at all related to any of the topics I covered tonight. And again, I stated at the intro that I've personally suffered with food addiction and binging overeating. If anyone has any questions or wants to discuss my personal experience, recommendations, anything, please reach out. Oh, I got my URLs mixed up there. Oh, well, so it's actually youtube.com, Basil B Vegan, if you want to go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I've been making short and concise videos to hold non-vegans accountable. A lot of the stuff I've learned actually through workshops. Juan Eduardo is an AAM mentor. He's got a great workshop on effective vegan outreach. So it's short and concise. If you want to go ahead and subscribe, of course, I would appreciate that and help, spread my channel. I started, if you're in the New York City if you're in the New York City area, I started a meetup specifically for tech professionals and professionals in tech adjacent fields to study on the intersection of how technology can amplify our animal rights activism. So again, I switched up the base URLs there, but I think you can see there. So again, please contact me. And I just want to give a huge thank you to AAM for helping me so much. And I know all the work you do, and I just look forward to meeting more of you, being involved in more activism, doing more demos together. And again, I just want to close out how important it is for us to be healthy. And again, I mean, we all know how difficult activism can be, both physically, the physical demands, and the mental demands. All right. And the movement needs more leaders. So more of us need to step up to take on more responsibility and be leaders as well and organizers. So thank you all so much.
Oh, Ben, that was really, really, really good. I feel better just listening to all that. Great ideas, well presented, very thorough, very heartfelt. So we're going to open up for the questions now. Please feel free to put questions in the chat. And while we're waiting for those, I'm gonna read you a few of the comments. Serenity was talking about her why, and her why is I'm vegan and active for justice for animals and liberation for all beings, which is a beautiful why. And in terms of exercise, Serenity is saying, I walk a lot and she likes to ski and snowboard in the winter. Great for physical and mental health. Thank you for sharing that. In regards to empathy, Diana's saying that empathy is key. It really is. You can boil it all down to empathy or lack thereof. Serenity says, seeking consent before seeking emotional support. It's important to build a strong consent culture. That's a good point. That's a really good point. Yes, if you're not certain that consent is there, ask. Don't always want to assume. And Nancy was saying from Roar, reach out for animal rights. She has a great YouTube channel as well. Says she appreciates this advice. And Serenity says, empathy builds relationships and communities and makes us more effective activists. Yeah, it's really the foundation of what we're doing. You're commended on the resources that you shared. Those are great resources, really great resources. So does anybody have a question about anything that was just covered or not covered that you'd like to ask? Benjamin, did you want to have them answer any of your other questions and see what their answers might be? Like, in regards to some of their own resources that they use, or in regards to any personal development authors that they like, or books that have been helpful, or other activists that you want to put in the chat, recommend.
Yes. That any meal prep hacks that you have, any hacks, exactly what you would do if you were 30% more productive. That's all those are great.
Yeah, so please okay, someone's going to be typing a question in a moment, CD activism. So yeah, but if anybody has a response to the prompts that what Benjamin was talking about, what would you do if you had I think you said $200 extra a month and 30% more productivity, either one or the other, or if you have any resources that you want to share, or cooking hacks, you said, like, where do you go? Where have you gone in the past that has worked well for you? For simple hacks for feeding yourself a plant-based diet, what works for you, what keeps you accountable for healthy food, healthy eating. Yeah. Okay. So there's a question from Danny from New Jersey. Thank you, Danny. Great presentation. What is your favorite practice for taking care of your mental health?
Okay. I think for me, exercise is that morning exercise is crucial. Because then it helps build that self-image that I'm somebody that like takes care of that priority first thing in the morning. The empathy piece is also crucial. So I think the empathy trades and say the empathy trades and the exercise. I mean, I think it all ties together. And I think I'm someone who's super sensitive as well. So if I don't eat a lot of nutrient dense foods, then that can definitely deter my mental health as well.
And you mentioned meditation also, so I assume you're a regular meditator. I am. I teach meditation for over 25 years. Do you want to say anything about that? The connection between meditation or mindfulness and learning to quiet your mind, or using affirmations or positive self-talk, and how important that is?
I think you're way more apt to speak on that.
Oh, yeah, I could say a whole lot about that. about how, meditation is so much more than just sitting and following your breath. And it's not necessarily, it can be a lot of things, a lot of different things to everybody. It can be spiritual for those of us who want that from it. It can be, a way to get yourself into your parasympathetic nervous system, which is relaxation response, out of stress response and survival mode. Meditation can turn the switch so that you're engaging in the natural relaxation mode, which is so important for your so important for your health. And then it also helps you cultivate positive qualities by focusing on them in your meditation. I don't know, enhance your imagination. Just so many ways that it helps us manage and regulate, just manage ourselves, manage our emotions, manage our thoughts. So thank you for that. So back to a question from CDA Activism for you. What if you live with protective, let me read that again. What if you live with overprotective parents who control what activism you get to go to?
Mm. Okay, yeah, that's a tricky one. So maybe if there is a range of actions that you would be allowed to do, or that wouldn't create a lot of conflict with your family,
Mhm.
then you could explore those, and then maybe there's enough of a diversity or range or idea. I mean, again, now here I am looking for the silver lining, but if there is, because again, I just have to acknowledge that that's a difficult position to be in if you don't feel like you have full agency, and then you like familial pressures and things. But if you can find one of the forms of activism that is accessible to you, that is enjoyable, and I'm learning more and more that the activism we do has to feed us, it's that sense of belonging, connectedness, or maybe even feed us creatively in some way, because it is more likely to be sustainable. So I guess my only suggestion is do the best you can to find the most enjoyable form of activism that you have access to.
Yes, maybe, talking to other activists about some other creative ideas that you might not have heard, looking for that, as well as just managing your own stress and emotions around that, because that certainly could make you feel angry, understandably, or make you feel frustrated, or make you feel resentful. And you want to manage and rechannel those emotions so that you can still be effective for the animals. So you can
Yeah.
give to the animals and have energy to spare versus having your energy drained. It doesn't serve anybody. But that's a tough situation. If anybody else has any thoughts about how to manage that, certainly feel free to share those in the chat. And Diana has a comment in response to the prompt, which is, I'm always complaining that I wish my work hours didn't get in the way of doing more activism. But if I had 30% more productivity, it would help compensate for that.
Mm, awesome. Thank you for that.
We could say a little, you could say a little bit more about community. You were talking about, the antidote to social isolation and not feeling connected. And there is all kinds of research. I know that there is about how important that is. And even in the elderly, where they sometimes are left alone for so long, or they're in a facility where they're alone, and how that affects them and their longevity, and all of that. And I know Brene Brown talks so much about belonging, that it's a human need. It's a human desire, a human need, a basic need that we all
Hmm.
need to feel like we belong and have a group, a collective, a tribe. Because we're animals too. We need a herd, just like animals thrive in a herd of their own. What do you think?
I agree, and I think, and there's another reason I'm really thankful to animal activism mentorship, because again, sometimes just because we can connect with another activist like at a protest or a demo doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get the deeper levels of connection, because of course we're all dynamic, multifaceted individuals, and maybe all different facets or parts of us want to be seen or heard. But I think thankfully, maybe as we get more activists into the mix, there's more diversity within the animal rights activist community, and more likelihood we're going to be able to at least find a couple people that we can connect with. And I do sometimes feel the quality over quantity. So, but those relationships where there's reciprocity and trust, and where we can feel safe, those are, yeah, they might, I mean, they don't always, yeah, those are super special.
They
And
really
so
are.
maybe it may be hard to find, but I guess worth the effort. But then also knowing a little bit, I guess the more we know about ourselves, the more we can be discerning and be a little bit more strategic with where we invest our energy to get like the most return for investment, so to speak, on relationships.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have found, personally that, the animal activism community is generally so welcoming and so inclusive, especially of new folks. We're just so thrilled every time someone new comes to activism and we can bring them in the fold so we can grow, but it's also just so genuine. People are really, and I don't know if other folks have found that, as well. And even folks who we get lots of introverts, lots of people who self-report that they are introverts coming to do activism, and it's so amazing when that happens. And there's so much acceptance and there's no pressure, but I didn't go into activism to make friends. Wasn't thinking of that, but it has been such a wonderful secondary side benefit,
Hmm.
beautiful one that keeps me going, that I really consider now my activist friends to be my best friends, to be,
Hmm.
they've sort of, yeah. Do you find the same?
Definitely, yeah. I think the
Yeah,
share. I mean, because obviously we value animal rights so much, and then just so I feel like we have to be aligned with just to have that as a foundation for a friendship. I think is crucial to
yeah.
those shared values.
Common values, shared values is what brings us together and keeps us together
Hmm.
versus going our separate ways. Okay,
Yes.
but there's a comments here then, and a question from Nancy. She says she's been struggling with compulsive overeating. What advice would you like to share, or shall she contact you directly? I think you
Um,
share that you had a similar struggle.
yes, yes. So I can share some specific resources if you want to contact me directly. But again, like a habit that I've struggled to implement, but that's something that is, diet agnostic. But if we can just learn to take a few breaths in between before we take a
Mm,
bite, because I'm gonna just put it in. So basically, if we can just create a few moments
mm,
of, I guess, mindfulness, or just creating a space, then sometimes we can, because the idea sometimes is that there's a part of us that's not rational, that is just driven for the impulse, and we can let that impulse take over us, and if we can create a little bit of space, maybe we can get back control of our cognitive faculties for that moment. And so any ways to keep, I personally use a chronometer. So like a little app on my phone called My Fitness Pal to help me track what I'm eating. And it's just another way for me to stay accountable, for myself.
yeah, those
So,
are all great.
yeah, reach out to me for especially for like, books and podcasts and more details.
Absolutely. Yeah, important to see it. I mean, there's lots of information about overeating out there, but it's such mixed information. So really finding the best resources, that are more vegan and more from that sort of holistic point of view. You
Hmm.
have those, and those are the best ones because eating is not just about filling our bellies and, getting the calories. It's emotional, it's mental. People do emotional eating. They eat for boredom, they eat to fill a void. We eat for so many reasons that we don't even realize why. And we're not even, like you said, present. We're not even eating with awareness. We're barely tasting the food.
Hmm.
So the opposite of that, mindful eating, is really tasting it. You actually get more pleasure out of eating when you eat mindfully because you're not missing it. You're not distracted and in your head so much that you cleaned your plate, but you don't remember it and you don't remember even tasting it. And there's no satisfaction, right? Or you go past the point of satiation. It's important to be aware of our bodily sensations, which like fullness,
Hmm.
and all of that without judgment, having no judgment toward ourselves, having compassion for those habits, for those patterns, that we have. So really, really great. We could do a whole, I mean, I have, mindful eating. I do sessions with my background as well with people. Really helps, really helps. Um, Yeah. So Dee was giving some advice to CDA activism about the struggle with parents. There's a lot you can do from the comfort of your home. Without your family being an obstacle, you can reach out to lawmakers, participate in social media campaigns and posts. Absolutely. You can be that keyboard warrior or maybe create video content
Yes.
from home, I guess.
Yes. I was gonna now that I've been involved in the technology industry for a few years. There's an organization called Vegan Hacktivists,
Yeah.
and they have a community bulletin board where you can do things like this: build a simple website, or help an organization with their SEO, or Google AdWords, or design something for an activist, and that's very much needed.
And just to say, AAM is welcoming anybody with some specific skills, especially tech kinds of skills that want to donate their time. We could use that. Or if social media is your thing, it's your jam, AAM and all grassroots, really,
Hmm.
nonprofits,
Hmm.
organizations can use
We need you.
help. We definitely need you. And it all adds up and it all goes to the animals. It all circles to the animals. It all trickles to the animals as we can, get our systems working well. You know, yeah. Serenity shares We the Free is also working on launching an online outreach platform so vegans can conduct the 3-minute movie challenge online. That would be an avenue too. It is so amazing to hear how so many different organizations now are coming up with more and more and more ways to reach more and more people, vegans
Yes.
and non-vegans. Is just absolutely amazing. Any other questions or comments now for Benjamin that you would like to put in the chat, or is there any other prompt that you want to put out there for folks to comment on? I was asking if anybody has a favorite automatic appliance. My air fryer and we're on very close terms.
Do you have a staple food that you like keep around regularly, or just like a rotation of staple foods that you constantly make?
I tend to eat a lot of the same things over and over again because they're easy, they're convenient. I know, and I just flavor them differently or add different things,
Mm-hmm.
but I just lots of brown rice, and I use the air fryer I use for tofu,
Mm-hmm.
or other maybe some faux meats, that will cook so quickly in there, and veggies too. And I also use the Instant Pot as well for those kinds of things. But I mean, I eat chickpeas almost every day. I eat avocados almost every day. I find you just put them together. You just throw them on anything and right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So I don't see any other questions coming. We could give it another minute or two. Otherwise, we'll wrap up if there aren't any, unless but Benjamin, do you have any other thoughts that you didn't get to share? Oh, do you know a little bit more about sleep hygiene? Can you say sleep is so important? Again, we could spend an hour on sleep and sleep hygiene. Um, any other recommendations with how folks can sleep better, deeper, longer, more restorative?
Okay. Well, I just from personal experience, have found that going to bed earlier and waking up earlier has been the better quality of sleep. So even if I'm getting the same number of hours of sleep, if I'm getting those hours closer to kind of when is normally dark and normally light,
Mhm.
I find it quite a bit more restful. And I find when I've gotten consistent with when I wake up, I find my sleep to be a lot more restful. So even if I go to bed a little later sometime, but I'll kind of more automatically now wake up before my alarm consistently around the same time. So the consistency has been great. Personally, I still struggle with turning off the blue light or the screen LEDs before bed, but I know that there's tons of research on that, and there's tons of research on not drinking. For me, 2 o'clock is my cutoff for caffeine. I like coffee and some green tea, but I know that 2 o'clock is my cutoff. Because ultimately it would be harder for me to get to sleep as early as I need to. So those are just a couple suggestions that I have for sleep hygiene.
Yeah, I've heard those, and those are really great basic suggestions. Just yeah, no caffeine and no food a while before bed, and the screen time. I think, is it like 2 hours? Is that what you said?
I've heard
Or
of three to
minimum
minimum,
for
yeah,
bed.
minimum an hour before bed. But then again, if you incorporate regular physical activity into your day, then that also can improve your sleep quality.
And then also, of course, having a comfortable mattress and a comfortable supportive pillow. And I think they say that if the room is cooler, we sleep better. If the room is a little more on the cool side, I guess, is we sleep better. And I know we tend to heat up, they say.
Hmm.
During the night, our body temperature goes up a lot. So maybe having a cooler gives us a better baseline for that. Total darkness, they also say. If you can really blot out all the lights with even those blackout curtains,
Hmm.
and that and have as little electronics in the room where you're sleeping, those EMFs or whatever they say that are emitted from anything electronic or any little lights can disturb your sleep
Hmm.
even. Anybody else? I'm no sleep expert for sure, and I struggle just like everyone else to get sleep, but it's just so super important, especially the night before you go to activism.
Hmm.
Or we do vigils. Diana and I, who's with us, get up at, 6 a.m. is the vigil. And it's hard to sleep the night before, but the night after we sleep good, I think. Yeah, sort of. So there's a couple more things here, Benjamin, before we end. So Nancy's asking, how many meals might you eat each day? How much time do you allow in between?
Um, I generally do 3 meals with some snacks and trying to space it out incrementally with a couple hours in between each meal. But that's generally how I operate.
Sounds good. Yeah, and we welcome any other comments that people have, whether snacking through the day. Some people say that's grazing is good. I know I do intermittent fasting. It's just my habit. It has been
Hmm.
for 4 or 5 years. It just works for me. I'm in the habit of it. Now I don't think about it, but I do a
Hmm.
12 and 8 window.
Nice. Okay.
I fast for 12 and eat for 8. But again, I'm no expert in that, so don't ask me any questions. I just do it. I
Hmm.
don't have any.
But was that difficult for you on the onset was it difficult for you to start, or do you remember the
I don't
challenge?
even I don't even remember it ever really being hard. I
Okay.
thought I did have to think about it in the beginning more and look
Hmm.
at the clock. I
Hmm.
remember in the beginning I had to keep, oh, is it time for me? Can I eat yet? Not a can, I can do whatever I want, but looking at the clock, going, oh, it's no, I'm gonna wait. And checking the clock a lot more in the beginning. Now it's just I listen to my belly, I don't have to watch the clock because I don't feel hunger until a certain time, and I don't have any cravings to eat. It is not even on my mind, and I'm just doing other things up until that point. So it's just become this rhythm,
Hmm. And
just
part
become a
of it.
nice rhythm for me. So Nancy says, well, exercise definitely helps ensure deeper sleep. Yep, you said that. So true. She does yoga, meditation, then runs every morning, then rigorous bike ride each afternoon. Oh, bless you. That's wonderful. I definitely admire that. I don't get a lot of exercise. CDA activism asks, when you meet up with other activists, is it better to talk about animals and activism or normal people topics? Now we're getting
Okay.
into the
Right.
how to
I,
socialize.
I like to do. I mean, I definitely like to do both, but I think I like to do both because I think and the normal people stuff is one. I think that is the best part about having an activist friend is we don't have to talk about the active. We can kind of get you know what I mean. That we can just get on to regular normal people stuff because I know that you know that I know that we know what the priority is, but then obviously we're still, like you said, normal people with regular lives. Regular, we need empathy for just the regular family stuff, relationship, job, work, all that. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
both. You have to
Hmm.
feel it out. There's a time and a place for both. I mean, typically during the actions, you're focusing on the action and you're focusing on the animals, and there's no time and no, you want to have a certain optic to people who are coming by. So the optic is we're not just chatting here to chat with each other, we're focusing
Hmm.
on, but afterwards, typically you go out to eat, or there's usually always an opportunity to connect one-on-one or have a date, have an activism date to go eat
Hmm.
with someone or to chat on the phone or whatever that is. So, another sleep tip from Nancy is if you snore, tilt your head back with your chin higher up. That helps with breathing, right? Oh, I get open up your nasal passages there. That's a real thing. That's a real struggle the breathing thing for some folks. And deep breathing fresh air and um, in the winter right before sleep helps. Deep breathing. Breathing just helps everything. It really is. And Nancy does intermittent fasting. There you go. Stop eating around 6 or 7. She does, then eat in the morning, no earlier than 10. Starting work keeps my mind off food, and time flies without thought of me too. I'm my most productive in the morning anyway, so I'm not even thinking about eating. I'm working, I'm thinking, I'm being productive, I'm writing, I'm communicating with people, I'm getting to my list, I'm getting my list checked off. So it's, and then I wind down in the afternoon or late afternoon into the evening. That's when I want to eat, when I have more time and focus. I can focus on the food. So everybody, yeah, you do what works for you. So my dog is scratching at the door. I don't know if you can hear that, everyone. I hope not. Maybe it's just me. I can hear her. I gotta let her in. So any other questions or thoughts today? Such a great topic we've been exploring, which is self-care, because as much as, of course, we know we're in it for the animals, we are their voices. We're the vehicles for delivering the message. So we have to take care of ourselves. We don't want to lose you guys. We don't want to lose anybody from this movement. We can't afford to have people burn out. We don't want you to burn out. And there's tons of secondary trauma and anticipatory grief or secondary grief, whatever,
Mhm.
from this. So we have to take care of each other, have each other's backs, but you are responsible for taking care of yourself, folks. You have to be responsible, accountable to yourself and get an accountability buddy, right, Benjamin?
Yes.
Wait, I'm just going to let my dog in. Go ahead, keep talking. I'll be right back.
Yes, the accountability buddy is crucial, and I think that's one of the bases of the activism mentorship. I know when I had, again, shout out to Red Pill Pete. We're gonna link boom. Oh, and he also did a great AAM workshop on street epistemology, so I can also link that in there. But having that mentor where he held me accountable was like, all right, what action are you gonna do next week? And I could call him. I was like, oh, I don't want to go to the cube. I don't want to go to the cube. He's like, go to the, trust me. Go. Why don't you want to go to the cube? You go to the cube, and then go to the cube. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad I went to the cube. Because doing activism is uncomfortable. But that's, like I said in my first slide, sometimes we got to get outside of our comfort zone to grow and improve.
That's such a great example of exactly why AAM started in the first place. So new activists wouldn't feel alone and would have an accountability buddy and could just talk through all the various things that when you're new to activists are really strange and you have a lot of questions and you don't know where
Yes,
and you're like, should I even ask this question? I feel silly asking this question, and you never need to feel silly. But when you have someone who's there for you one-on-one, you know, in sort of a non-judgmental relationship, they just want to help you. They just want to guide you. It's invaluable.
it
It's
is.
really invaluable. So
And
certainly we encourage
and
people.
and then I think that, I mean, also I know that my position is unique because I live in New York City. So there's literally a cube every week with at least 20 activists showing up every week to do cubes. There's free demos every week. So I could go up and hang. So there's a plethora of opportunities for me to meet activists. But I know, well, some of my mentees, they're on places where there's no other activists around, and the closest city to them is hours away. They may or may not have a chapter. They may or may not have an activist community. So even if it's just a substitute on the phone, Zoom chats, I still can feel a sense of the connection over the Zoom and over the call. And if that, and that's all we have, is just reaching out to a virtual network of activists.
Hmm. Yes. So I guess yeah, sometimes it's got to be virtual, but you can,
Mm-hmm.
at least we have this as an option to talk virtually to each other. For people who live in more isolated areas, it's a lifeline. But you're right, here in the tri-state area, because I'm in New Jersey, so Benjamin and I are close in that way. We're very fortunate. There's so much activism every weekend, multiple things all the time, live, street activism, and a strong and growing community, in regards to that. So if you don't have that, you search for it first. Make sure you're not have really looked. Sometimes that's one of the biggest challenges for new activists is that's step one.
One, yeah, or then you might have to step up and start a cube, start a demo, start a cube, start a group in your area. The
Organize.
convergence again, the New York City and the Ohio convergence, like that was so much outside of my comfort zone to get on a plane, go meet with people I've never even met, and be in a van for hours a day going to actions and didn't even know where I was going to go, but it's so worth it.
Yeah, if you're willing to travel, it's worth it. Coming out of your comfort zone is worth it, even though it's like scary. You know, me too. It was a little scary going to the convergences for the first time, second time even. But
Hmm.
I am so glad, just like you're so glad I did. Being immersed in that environment with other like-minded folks, all focusing and I mean, there's nothing really nothing like it.
Hmm.
It's really amazing that way. And important to have community, especially since like you listed initially right away tonight, you know, all the stressors that we have, all the outside stressors, you know. So it's important to have community for that. It's intense. It can be intense. Let's see, there are a couple more comments, questions, and we'll so Nancy asked, how did you find your accountability buddy? Were you saying that like Red Pill Pete was kind of like your accountability buddy, your AAM mentor, or was there someone else?
I have a few different accountability buddies, but
Oh,
like for example, because sometimes I have a lot of aversion and resistance to like applying for jobs right now. I'm full-time job seeking, so I have a buddy that was in an alumnus from the same uh, coding boot camp that I went to. So we just check in once a week about like how many jobs I was going to apply to, what went well, what didn't go well, what I accomplished. Just a simple LinkedIn message every week. So I recommend having maybe multiple accountability buddies in different spheres for different areas of your life.
nice.
But yeah, you can even just reach even somebody that you trust, reach out and ask them to be
Yeah.
your accountability buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a big formal thing.
Hmm.
It's just a term for, we're gonna, you know, add some more purposefulness, some more deliberateness to our friendship, and keep each other accountable. And
Yes.
yeah. Serenity just offers that it can be mentally difficult and inadvertently contributed to dystopia to participate in an activist action where activists are overexposed to graphic footage. I guess like in the cubes,
Hmm.
sometimes you have to turn away, look, if it's too much. For this reason and many others, she likes 3MMC. I can't see what is that. Pay-per-view activism. I haven't heard of that, so I'm not sure what it is, but if you have a link for that, Serenity, you're welcome to put it in the chat. Um, yeah, and CDA activism was sort of agreeing what I said. You can kind of look above the screens instead of at the screens if you want to avoid watching in order to, yeah, still be able to participate in cubes, which are really just one form of street activism, but effective, proven effective. That's why it's repeatable,
Hmm.
in so many different ways that the format itself is effective as outreach. But it's hard for us to watch the screens, certainly. I do the same thing. I sort of look, don't look, but I'm focused on who I'm talking to as well. So, any other thoughts or last questions tonight? Such good stuff. Please check out Basil Be Vegan. That's the name of your YouTube channel. Yes, Benjamin?
Thank you. Yes, please. Thank you so much. And yeah, that would be great. Help boost my subscribers or my content. That would be great.
Excellent. All right. Default character says my mental health after this video is the strong emojis. Good. We hope everybody is already feeling it now, right away, just from talking about it. But don't let this slip to the wayside, folks. Really, like Benjamin said, set a goal for yourself right now. One thing, even if it's just one little thing or one big thing, something you need to add to your routine or take out of your routine in the interest of well-being and self-care and stress reduction. Think about that now. If anybody wants to share that in the chat, what one thing they're committing to themselves, promising to do, starting maybe tomorrow in terms of whatever it might be. A little more exercise, a little more sleep, a little more meditation, a little more positivity, a little healthier food, whatever it might be. We certainly encourage you. Thank you, Nancy, for sharing Basil Be Vegan's web web YouTube channel. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. And Red Pill Pete as well. Find him. That's easy to find on YouTube. Red Pill Pete. Red Pill Pete. Excellent. Thank you, everybody, so much. Any final thoughts before I do the wrap up? Nothing? Well, now you're muted. Any
Oh,
final,
oh, any final wrap-ups for me? Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
any final thoughts?
For me.
Words of hope?
Yeah, I mean, I think I just again just appreciate you, Michelle, and AAM, and hope to connect with more of you in the future. And yeah, just I know that the other activists I know help keep hope alive because obviously it's so discouraging, but I know that we have to keep a little bit of hope so we can keep fighting.
Yeah, stay hopeful, stay hopeful. That's a great way to end. So then I'd like to announce our next program, which will be on Zoom, because it's a little more of an intimate program, which is Transforming Grief. Our grief support group for activists, specifically for activists, is on April 4th. Then on April 18th, we'll be live streaming again for Ask a Vegan Vet, a vegan veterinarian, anything with veterinarian Crystal Heath. And more workshops, more programs, more live streams to be announced, of course. And then also just reiterating, our New York City conversions is May 24th through June 3rd, and our Ohio occurrence. These are our live events, back-to-back week-long ones, multi-day, August 1 through 4. And you can find all that information on our social media page, Animal Activism Mentorship on Facebook, on Instagram. And please check out our previous workshops right here on our YouTube channel and subscribe while you're here, please. We appreciate that. And also, yeah, and follow us on social media. Please consider becoming a patron by finding AAM on Patreon. Your donations allow AAM to continue to provide free educational resources for activists, which ultimately saves more animals. And that wraps up another AAM workshop. Thank you, Benjamin, for your time and wisdom so much. Thank you all for being here and the tireless work that each of you is doing for the animals. If you're interested in becoming a mentor or mentee or want to get involved, please reach out to us. Until next time, stay strong and live vegan, everyone.
Peace.
Peace all. Peace out. Thank you, everyone.
Much love. Bye.
Much love. Good night.